November 1994. A young woman runs through the streets of Chennai, breathless, not daring to look back. She has escaped from an ashram. She has stayed silent for years, but she cannot endure it any longer. She reaches a women's shelter called Udavum Karangal, and with trembling hands, she begins to reveal a horrifying story. Swami Premananda assaulted 13 women. One of them became pregnant. A man was killed inside the ashram and buried in secret. It has all been happening for years. Journalists listen in shock. Because Swami Premananda is not just a local spiritual leader, he is an international figure. He has thousands of followers from Australia, Europe, and America. People call him the embodiment of divine love and worship the sacred ash that he supposedly produces from his hands. But the young woman's testimony reveals a dark truth hiding behind that polished, holy image. In 1951, in the mountain town of Matale in Sri Lanka, a child was born into a Tamil middle-class family. They named him Prem Kumar. It was an ordinary household, an ordinary life, but Prem was not an ordinary child. His face was so bright that neighbors called him Ravi, meaning sunlight. He was always smiling, full of energy, naturally charismatic. As he grew older, Prem Kumar became deeply interested in spirituality. He began studying Hindu philosophy, learning yoga, practicing meditation. And one day, perhaps at 18 or 20, he made a decision. He would dedicate his life to spiritual teaching. He would become a guru. In the late 1970s, Prem Kumar founded a small ashram in Matale. It had only a few rooms, nothing luxurious, but it was enough. His first followers arrived, listening to his talks, learning meditation. But the real attraction came from what he called miracles. The first was the Vibhuti miracle. Prem Kumar would wave his hands in the air, and a grey powder appeared. Sacred ash. "This is God's blessing," he told people. "It brings protection and prosperity." Crowds watched in amazement. They saw it with their own eyes. It looked completely real. There was another miracle too, the lingam, the sacred stone symbol of Shiva. Prem Kumar would open his mouth and pretend to bring out a small lingam from deep inside his throat. Followers were stunned. He is truly divine. God speaks through him. But the reality behind the scenes was very different. The Vibhuti was a simple trick. He hid the powder in his palm beforehand. The lingam was the same, placed in his mouth earlier, then revealed at the right dramatic moment. It was stage magic, but no one questioned it because the very idea of doubting a guru felt unimaginable. In 1983, civil war erupted in Sri Lanka. The Tamil Tigers clashed with the government. Streets turned violent. Bombs exploded. Families fled their homes. Fear spread everywhere. In the middle of this chaos, Prem Kumar made a decision. He would move to India, and he would take with him the orphaned children living in his ashram. These children had lost their families, left completely alone. Prem Kumar told them, "I am your guardian now. I will protect you." And with that promise, he crossed the border into India with all of them. When they arrived in India, the first place they settled was Tiruchirappalli, a major city in Tamil Nadu. There, in a rented building, he established a small ashram. But Prem Kumar no longer introduced himself as Prem Kumar. He now called himself Swami Premananda, the teacher of love. A new name, a new identity, a new image. The early years were difficult. There was little money and very few resources, but Premananda was patient. He gave spiritual talks, performed what he claimed were miracles, and slowly gathered followers. The Tamil community in India welcomed him. They said, "He is a holy man from Sri Lanka." In 1989, a major opportunity appeared. A 150-acre property in the Fatimanagar area went up for sale. Using donations, Premananda bought the land and built a massive ashram. The property had flower gardens, fruit trees, and teak plantations. From the outside, it looked like paradise, peaceful, beautiful, serene. The ashram was not only presented as a spiritual center, it was also described as a refuge for women and orphaned children. Premananda repeated the same message everywhere. I help the poor. I shelter those who have no one. People found this noble and inspiring. Donations increased. Wealthy supporters joined. By the early 1990s, Premananda had become known far beyond Tamil Nadu. Visitors came from Australia, Europe, and the United States. Western followers were especially fascinated. They were deeply drawn to his so-called vibhuti miracles, the idea that sacred ash could appear from his hands. The belief that the West is materialistic and the East is spiritual made them trust him easily. Premananda understood this and used it well. He began presenting himself as an avatar, a physical manifestation of the divine. I am not an ordinary person, he said. God speaks through me. I am his instrument, and people believed him. But inside the ashram, beneath the polished surface, something dark was growing. There were young girls living in the ashram. Many of them were orphans, and some came from families who struggled with poverty, so their parents believed the Swami would care for them, educate them, and offer them a safe environment. In the beginning, everything appeared ordinary. The girls went to school, they received meals, and they lived in a place that seemed peaceful and protected. With time, however, Premananda began calling certain girls for private meetings. He usually chose those who were the most vulnerable, the ones without close family support, quiet girls who were shy and easily intimidated. He invited them by saying he would give them special spiritual guidance, adding, "You are chosen. The divine has a purpose for you. I will teach you personally, but this must stay between us." The girls felt honored. They believed being selected by the guru meant something important. They entered a private room with him, and he closed the door. Once inside, his behavior changed completely. He told them, "This is a sacred practice that brings you closer to a higher power." And he began acting in ways that made them deeply uncomfortable. They wanted to object, but they couldn't, because he was their guru, someone they had been taught to see as a spiritual figure. He pushed the situation further by saying, "This is a way of serving the divine. By listening to me, you are fulfilling a spiritual duty. What followed crossed emotional, moral, and personal lines that should never be crossed." The girls were left shocked and confused. Some wanted to cry but held it in. Premananda kept them silent through fear, telling them phrases such as, "If you speak about this, the divine will be displeased, and your life will fall into hardship. Your loved ones could face trouble as well." The girls felt frightened, ashamed, and guilty. Some of them began to wonder, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe this truly was a ritual. And they kept everything to themselves. This did not happen to only one girl. Premananda repeated the same pattern again and again. He selected a girl, gained her trust, manipulated her vulnerability, pressured her into silence, and then moved on to another. It continued for years in a calculated and secretive manner. Some of the girls in the ashram began complaining about health problems. They mentioned asthma, headaches, and stomach discomfort. Premananda told them, "I can help you, but it requires a special kind of treatment." Hoping to feel better, the girls agreed. But what he called treatment was something entirely different, something that seriously violated their trust and well-being. In 1993, one of the girls, a 16-year-old named Irul Jyoti, realized that something was very wrong with her health after one of these so-called sessions. Frightened, she told Premananda what was happening. Instead of reacting with concern, he simply said, "Don't worry, I will handle everything." A secret medical procedure was arranged inside the ashram, away from the outside world. And afterward, what should have been safely discarded was instead kept hidden by Premananda for reasons only he understood. But the ashram faced another serious issue. A young man named Ravi. He was around 20 years old and lived with cognitive challenges. His family had brought him to the ashram believing the Swami could help him find stability. But Ravi had difficulty managing his emotions. He often got into arguments, raised his voice, and struggled to adapt to ashram life. At some point, Ravi discovered parts of what was happening behind closed doors. Maybe he witnessed something, or perhaps one of the girls trusted him enough to speak. But he learned the truth, and then he began to threaten Premananda, saying, "I will expose everything. I will go to the authorities. I will tell everyone." This terrified Premananda. Ravi could destroy everything he had built: the image, the influence, the steady stream of donations. In April 1994, Ravi was confined to a room. He stayed there for days under harsh conditions. After a period of intense stress and mistreatment, his health collapsed. It was officially declared a case of cardiac failure, but the circumstances raised many questions. A court would later examine this in detail. Ravi's body was buried quietly in the ashram garden late at night, with only a few staff members present. They were all pressured into silence. But secrets never stay hidden forever. And by November 1994, everything finally erupted into the open. In the first days of November 1994, a young woman named Suresh Kumari managed to escape from the ashram. She had remained silent for years, living in fear, but she could no longer endure what was happening. She reached Chennai and found refuge in a women's shelter called Udavum Karangal. There, in a safe environment and surrounded by people who wanted to help her, she slowly gathered the courage to speak. At first she was quiet, but eventually she broke down and began to describe everything through tears. How Premananda had mistreated her and other girls for years, how they were pressured into silence, how fear was used to control them. Her story shocked everyone who listened. Women's rights groups immediately took action. They contacted journalists, and soon the story appeared in a major English-language newspaper. The headline hit the country like an earthquake: "The holy man exposed as a predator." The news spread rapidly, first across Tamil Nadu, then throughout all of India. People were stunned. Swami Premananda, the man known for performing miracles. That can't be true. But as the story gained attention, more girls found the strength to come forward. One, then another, then another. Their accounts were strikingly similar. He gained their trust, isolated them, violated their boundaries, and threatened them into silence. Public pressure grew. At the time, the AIADMK party was in power, and there were rumors that some ministers were close to Premananda. The opposition accused the government. Why aren't you taking action? Finally, the Tamil Nadu crime branch launched an operation. They raided the Fatimanagar ashram. Inside, they found dozens of residents, and Premananda himself. Police searched every corner of the property. What they uncovered was disturbing. They located the hidden burial site of Ravi, the young man who had lived in the ashram. His remains were exhumed, and forensic expert Dr. Jayaprakash examined the bones, confirming the identity. It was indeed Ravi. Premananda and 6 of his associates were arrested, handcuffed, and taken into custody. The media surrounded the scene: cameras, microphones, reporters everywhere. Premananda tried to appear calm, but fear showed clearly in his eyes. During questioning, he denied everything. "This is a conspiracy. They are trying to destroy me. My enemies set me up." But the evidence was overwhelming. The testimonies of victims, Ravi's remains, and, most critically, the preserved medical evidence related to Arul Jyothi's secret procedure all pointed to a long pattern of exploitation. Prosecutors requested a DNA analysis. Samples were sent to a laboratory in Hyderabad. Blood from Premananda, blood from Arul Jyothi, and preserved tissue from the terminated pregnancy. When the results arrived, they were undeniable, a 99.9% match. Premananda was identified as the biological father. His defense was led by Ram Jethmalani, one of India's most famous attorneys. Jethmalani tried 3 main strategies. First, he argued that Premananda possessed divine powers and could perform miracles. Demonstrations of Vibhuti and other so-called supernatural acts were presented in court. But the prosecution brought in a professional illusionist. Right there in the courtroom, he reproduced all the same effects, producing ash, producing objects, and explained each technique, showing that these were stage tricks, not miracles. Second, the defense claimed that the women had willingly interacted with Premananda, but the court rejected this entirely. Several women were legally underage at the time. Others were misled with false religious claims like, "This will heal you," or "This is service to the divine," and some were pressured through threats. The court stated clearly that none of these circumstances could be considered genuine consent. Third, the defense accused the police of pressuring witnesses. This part held some truth. A few statements had indeed been influenced by investigators. But it didn't matter, because the objective evidence was too strong. The DNA findings, the remains of Ravi, and multiple medical reports all pointed in the same direction. The trial continued for months. 49 witnesses testified. Several survivors took the stand, describing what they had lived through, many of them crying as they spoke. Some were too afraid to continue and withdrew their statements. But there were still enough witnesses, and their accounts formed a consistent, powerful narrative. In September 1997, at the Pudukkottai District Court, Judge R. Bhanumati delivered her verdict. It was a 460-page judgment. The courtroom was full, journalists, activists, families of the affected women, all waiting in complete silence. The judge began speaking, her voice firm and steady. The accused, Swami Premananda, is found guilty of misconduct against 13 women, inappropriate conduct toward 2 minors, and involvement in the death of Ravi. The room went still. No one even breathed. The sentence is as follows: 2 consecutive life terms, one for the offenses against the women, the second for the death of Ravi. In addition, a financial penalty of 6.73 million rupees is imposed. If the penalty is not paid, an additional 32 years and 9 months of imprisonment will be added. Premananda's face turned pale, though he still attempted to smile, as if pretending this was just a temporary setback. The judge continued, "This court finds the actions of the accused to be of such a severe nature that no reduction of sentence is justified. This punishment is given as the maximum allowed under the law to discourage other fraudulent spiritual leaders from similar wrongdoing." 6 of his close aides were also convicted, charged with assisting and destroying evidence. 5 of them received life sentences. Premananda was taken to prison, yet he continued repeating the same line: "I am innocent. The truth will come out one day." In 2002, the Chennai High Court rejected his appeal and upheld the conviction. In 2005, the Supreme Court of India also dismissed the appeal. At that point, all legal options had been exhausted. Premananda was destined to remain in prison for life. Still, many of his followers continued to believe in him, especially those from abroad. "He is innocent. This is a conspiracy," they claimed. They launched campaigns, created websites, and organized petitions titled "Save Swami Premananda." A European follower named Doris continued running the ashram, saying, "He is a divine being. Earthly courts cannot judge him." In February 2011, Premananda became seriously ill. He suffered acute liver failure. Doctors at Cuddalore Central Prison treated him, but his condition kept worsening. On the morning of February 21, 2011, Swami Premananda passed away at the age of 59. His final words were, "I am innocent." Even after his death, his followers continued commemorating him. In 2014, his birth anniversary was celebrated in Sri Lanka. In 2015, an international conference in his name was organized, with delegates arriving from Argentina, Belgium, France, and the United States. But the victims continued to live with their trauma. Their healing process was far from over. The story of Swami Premananda is not just the story of one dangerous individual. It represents the darker side of the fake guru phenomenon in India and around the world. Asaram Bapu, Gurmeet Ram Rahim, Santosh Madhavan, Falahari Baba, Nithyananda, all of them followed the same pattern. A charismatic leader, claims of being special, so-called miracles, gaining trust, increasing power, and then harming the very people who looked up to them. Premananda misled people with his vibhuti tricks, calling it a divine blessing. But in court, a professional illusionist recreated the same effects, proving that it was simple sleight of hand, not a miracle. Why do people believe such leaders? Because many want to believe. They search for meaning, they long for something extraordinary, and gurus take advantage of that longing. Another reason is the culture of not questioning. Guru is divine, do not doubt him. This mindset creates the perfect environment for exploitation. A third factor is vulnerable individuals. Premananda targeted young girls who had no families to protect them. Fourth, spiritual manipulation. He used religious language to justify his actions, and the girls trusted him because they believed he represented something sacred. Fifth, international shielding. Some of his Western followers defended him fiercely, calling him divine, sending money, organizing campaigns, which made the pursuit of justice even more difficult. The lesson is simple. Do not believe in miracles without questioning. Do not accept spiritual leaders without scrutiny. Protect your children. And remember, Vibhuti is just ash, not a divine blessing, but a magician's trick.